You think your talent will protect you. That being brilliant makes you untouchable. But what if I told you, the brighter you shine, the faster they come for you? Not your enemies, your mentors, your bosses, your friends. Because in the game of power, it's not the weak who fall first. It's the ones who dare to outshine the master, and they never see it coming. This is law number one. And if you ignore it, it won't just cost you your career, it'll destroy your life. There's a reason this is law number one. Before you try to become powerful, rich, admired, you must learn to be invisible. Not truly, but strategically. Because history does not remember those who were great but careless. It remembers those who understood one simple thing. Power is not taken, it's allowed, and it is taken away the moment someone above you feels threatened. This law has broken kings, CEOs, generals, artists, geniuses, not because they weren't talented, but because they didn't know when to hold back. This law is simple in words. Never outshine the master. But in life, it's one of the hardest to follow. Let's begin. The trap of talent. When you're good at what you do, truly good, you feel it. People notice. Your ideas work. You solve problems others can't. You see things faster, deeper, sharper. It's natural to want to show it, to be recognized, to move forward. You feel like you deserve a seat at the table, and in many ways, you do. But here's the trap. The better you are, the more dangerous you become to the wrong people. In any hierarchy, company, family, army, politics, the one above you wants control. They may respect your skill, but if your brilliance makes them feel small, you become a threat. And threats must be removed, not because you're wrong, not because you're unworthy, but because they feel insecure. Your excellence becomes a mirror to their limitations, and not everyone has the strength to look into that mirror and grow. Some choose to shatter it instead. This is why many of the brightest people are quietly eliminated before they ever rise, not by enemies, but by their own mentors, bosses, and sponsors, not through open confrontation, but through silence, delay, exclusion, or being let go. The language is soft. The actions are final. The decision has already been made before you ever hear the words. They will say, "We're restructuring," or "It's just not the right fit." But beneath those polite phrases lies a simpler truth. You were too good, too confident, too noticeable. And in a system where status is everything, you made the wrong person feel replaceable. And so they replaced you, not because you were bad, but because you were better, and made that visible. So remember, talent is a gift, but also a weapon. If you don't know where to point it and when to sheath it, it may wound you before it ever helps you rise. The story of Nicolas Fouquet, France, 1661. Nicolas Fouquet, the Minister of Finance, was at the height of his influence. Ambitious, cultured, and exceptionally intelligent, he had helped stabilize the finances of the state and was a loyal servant to the crown. Yet what made him remarkable was not just his competence, it was his taste. Fouquet had vision. He brought together the finest minds in architecture, art, gardening, and music to create something unprecedented, the Château de Vaux-le-Vicomte. This estate was no ordinary home. It was a symbol, a testament to human refinement, wealth, and power. Grand salons, meticulously manicured gardens, flowing fountains, and even a team of artists and intellectuals dedicated to its ongoing improvement. It was, without question, more magnificent than anything King Louis XIV himself owned at the time. On August 17, 1661, Fouquet held a celebration at the chateau in honor of the king. The guest list included nobles, poets, artists, and statesmen. The evening was perfection. Fireworks, a Molière play, exquisite cuisine, every detail orchestrated to please and dazzle. And it did. The king was speechless, but beneath the awe was something else, a boiling resentment. Louis XIV was a young king, not yet solidified in absolute power. To be outshone by a minister, to have the court whisper that Fouquet's palace made Versailles look modest, it was a humiliation dressed as flattery. The king began to question, where did Fouquet get the money for this? Had he embezzled? Had he grown too powerful? Was he building a court of his own? The whispers of jealousy from Fouquet's rivals grew louder. Envy found a fertile ground. The celebration that was meant to secure Fouquet's future had, in a single night, ensured his downfall. Just days later, Louis XIV ordered his arrest. D'Artagnan, the famed captain of the Musketeers, took him into custody. Fouquet was subjected to a trial that dragged on for years, a political theater designed not for justice, but to erase him. In the end, he was imprisoned for life in a fortress far from Paris. Fouquet's fall wasn't due to crime, incompetence, or betrayal. It was brilliance expressed too boldly in front of the wrong eyes. His success became an insult, his elegance an act of defiance. This is what happens when you shine too brightly in the presence of power, when the spotlight lingers too long on you instead of your superior. Fouquet could have chosen discretion. He could have veiled his grandeur, but he didn't, and he paid the price. Power punishes excess visibility, especially when it reflects poorly on the throne. The mechanics of power. Power is not logical. It's emotional. It doesn't live in facts. It lives in feelings, ego, insecurity, status. At its core, power is about perception, how people see you and how they see themselves in relation to you. When you cause someone above you to feel insecure, even subtly, you trigger ancient instincts. In the animal world, it's about dominance. In the human world, it's the same, just in better clothes. The moment your talent, ideas, or charisma make a superior feel less intelligent, less respected, or less admired, you set off internal alarms. They may smile, they may nod, but inside, they are recalibrating the hierarchy. And if you appear to be climbing too fast, skipping rungs, drawing attention, their reaction will not be admiration. It will be fear. Power is not something you simply earn through merit. It's something you navigate. It exists in relationships. And relationships are emotional economies. Every interaction is a transaction. When you shine, someone else dims. When you impress, someone else feels unimpressive. And if that someone holds power, you are in danger. This law is not about suppressing your talent. It's about channeling it wisely. Let others above you feel secure. Let them shine. Make your contributions seem like extensions of their greatness, not competition to it. Praise their decisions, echo their values, elevate their image. When they feel safe, you are safe. When they feel admired, you can rise. But the moment you step out of the shadow too soon, the spotlight burns. This is why the world is filled with quietly brilliant people. Not because they lack ambition, but because they understand timing. They rise through patience, precision, and emotional intelligence. Power isn't fair. It never was. But it is predictable. And those who learn its rules survive and thrive. To understand why this happens, you have to look deeper into human psychology. Insecure people don't just dislike being outperformed. They experience it as a kind of humiliation, a threat to their identity. If someone has built their status on being the smartest in the room, and you come in and solve a problem they couldn't, it doesn't matter how respectful you are. Your success will be interpreted as rebellion, a public challenge to their worth. And here's the paradox. The more insecure a leader is, the more they demand loyalty, but the less they can tolerate your excellence. They'll want your help, but hate the way you make them feel. They'll praise you in public and plot your removal in private. Not because you're disloyal, but because your brilliance makes them feel replaceable. In some cases, they may even sabotage you before you become a real threat. Block promotions, deny visibility, spread quiet doubts about your attitude, and because they outrank you, most will believe them. That's the dark heart of power dynamics. It doesn't reward raw talent. It rewards strategic patience. You have to earn trust before you show your full strength. You have to make them feel safe before you become dangerous. This doesn't mean you should fake weakness or dumb yourself down. It means you learn to be a shadow, flexible, invisible when needed, always present. A shadow that slowly grows until it covers the whole room. And no one noticed you expanding until it was too late. This is how power is won in the real world. Not with explosions, but with shadows. Not by demanding attention, but by mastering perception. Because in the end, power is not about who's best. It's about who's still standing. Histories from history, kings, politicians, and CEOs. Throughout time, power has followed predictable patterns. The names and titles change. Kings, presidents, CEOs, but the mechanics remain the same. Those who rise too fast, shine too bright, or forget to bow at the right moment often meet a brutal end. Their stories aren't just history, they're warnings. Take the tragic story of Thomas Cromwell, chief minister to Henry VIII. Cromwell was brilliant. He engineered the king's divorce, orchestrated the English Reformation, and helped reshape the political structure of England. But his very success made him dangerous. When he arranged a politically motivated marriage for the king, one that Henry found personally repulsive, Cromwell fell from favor overnight. Despite decades of loyal service, he was arrested, charged with treason, and beheaded. His fatal mistake wasn't incompetence, it was overconfidence. He believed his power was secure because of his results. But power doesn't care about results. It cares about comfort. And Cromwell had made the king uncomfortable. Centuries later, in Tsarist Russia, a similar fate awaited Mikhail Speransky. A reformer under Alexander I, Speransky was the architect of ambitious modernizations, pushing for rational governance and legal reform. His mind was decades ahead of his time, but his intellect and influence began to outshine even the Tsar. Nobles grew envious. The court whispered. Eventually, Alexander exiled him. Not because he was wrong, but because he was right too early, too often, too visibly. Fast forward to the 20th century. Consider Nikita Khrushchev. After Stalin's death, Khrushchev rose rapidly. He denounced Stalin's crimes, liberalized policies, and opened new paths for Soviet society. But his boldness, from the Cuban Missile Crisis to internal reforms, earned him enemies. When he appeared weak after the US confrontation, and his style alienated the party elites, the Politburo moved. He was quietly removed from power and replaced with someone more stable. In the corporate world, these same patterns play out behind boardroom doors. Take Martin Eberhard, one of the original co-founders of Tesla. A visionary with technical depth, he laid the groundwork for the company's early vehicles. But when Elon Musk came in as a dominant investor and growing public figure, Eberhard's role diminished. Internal disagreements followed. Eventually, Musk ousted him. The press softened the story, but it was a classic case. One powerful visionary outshined another, and only one could remain in the spotlight. Or consider John Scully and Steve Jobs. Scully, the experienced executive, was brought in to guide Apple's business. Jobs, the passionate innovator, challenged him at every step. Despite being the founder, Jobs was eventually pushed out of his own company, not because he lacked brilliance, but because that brilliance became hard to control. His charisma and impulsive leadership created friction. He would later return, of course, but his first fall was proof that in the wrong moment, genius alone doesn't protect you. Even in modern politics, the dynamics are clear. Andrew Cuomo, once a dominant governor of New York, fell not simply due to scandal, but because those around him, long frustrated by his consolidation of power, sensed the right moment to strike. Scandal was a trigger, but resentment was the fuel. When a powerful figure becomes more feared than respected, the knives come out. And in media, look at Megyn Kelly's trajectory. A rising star at Fox News, her confrontations with then-candidate Donald Trump made her both famous and vulnerable. Her sharp intellect and independence clashed with the network's power structure. When she moved to NBC, she brought the spotlight, but not the same control. Within a few years, she was out. Not for lack of talent, but because talent, when it stops serving the system, becomes a liability. These stories repeat because the psychology of power hasn't changed. Those in control are rarely eager to share it. Talented subordinates must tread carefully. Too much charisma, too much visibility, too much innovation, without the right alliances, can become lethal. What connects all these stories? Miscalculated visibility. In each case, the fall didn't come from failure, but from success that made others feel insecure. Often, these individuals were loyal. They believed their value was undeniable. They didn't understand that power doesn't move on merit. It moves on perception. And so the lesson is this: if you want to rise, study not just how people succeeded, but how they fell. Because history does not only crown, it also crucifies. And often, it does so in silence, behind closed doors, with a smile. In the realm of power, talent must be tempered by tact. Visibility must be earned, then measured. The greatest mistake is believing that excellence speaks for itself. It doesn't. It threatens. And when it threatens the wrong person, the price is exile. Or worse, every empire has its ruins, and every ruin has a story that begins the same way. Someone shined too brightly, too soon, too high, too alone. Modern examples, the power dynamics of today. Today's world may seem more open, more meritocratic, but the laws of power remain. In the digital age, boardrooms have been replaced by Slack channels, political battles unfold on Twitter, and corporate wars happen behind glass office doors. But make no mistake, the trap of talent still claims its victims. Let's start with tech. Think of Travis Kalanick, the co-founder of Uber. His meteoric rise made him a Silicon Valley icon. Bold, aggressive, unapologetically ambitious, he built Uber into a global powerhouse. But his very intensity, which had once been an asset, became a liability. Board members, investors, and the media began to see him as reckless. Internal culture issues, PR disasters, and power struggles followed. Despite being the architect of Uber's success, Kalanick was pushed out. Why? Because he became too big, too visible, too uncontrollable. His vision threatened the stability others wanted. Now consider Susan Fowler. A brilliant engineer at Uber, she penned a blog post exposing systemic harassment inside the company. The post went viral. It ignited a movement. While Fowler was praised publicly, privately, she faced pushback, blacklisting, and career turbulence. Her competence wasn't in question. Her impact was undeniable. but she disrupted a structure, and structures defend themselves. In the world of finance, look at Adam Neumann of WeWork. Charismatic, visionary, and eccentric, Neumann sold a dream of a new way to work. Investors poured billions into the company, but the dream became too inflated. His behavior, lavish spending, strange spiritual proclamations, and power plays alienated the very investors who once backed him. When the IPO failed, so did his reign. Neumann wasn't ousted for failing early, but for rising too fast, too irrationally, and making those who empowered him look foolish. These aren't isolated events, they are patterns. Consider Sheryl Sandberg at Meta. Long considered the stabilizing force behind Zuckerberg, she was respected, powerful, and essential. But over time, as scandals around Facebook's data use and moderation escalated, her power became a target. Behind the scenes, narratives shifted. Once indispensable, she became optional. Eventually, she stepped down. It wasn't a firing, but it was a removal from power all the same. In journalism, we see similar stories. Barry Weiss, formerly of the New York Times, was an accomplished writer with a bold voice. But her opinions, controversial, independent, unaligned, drew fire. Colleagues turned cold. Pressure mounted. She left the Times not for lack of skill, but because her talent disrupted consensus. Even in entrepreneurship, visibility is a double-edged sword. Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos had charisma, drive, and vision, but sold a lie. Her fall was public and justified. But less discussed are the internal whistleblowers like Tyler Schultz, who told the truth early. He faced retaliation, legal pressure, and isolation. His story is one of integrity and the quiet costs of shining too bright in rooms built on illusion. From governments to Google, from studios to startups, the law remains. Talent without tact invites removal. Visibility without diplomacy courts destruction. These examples aren't meant to scare, but to sharpen your awareness. The modern world may reward authenticity, but it still punishes threat. If your light makes others squint, they'll try to dim it, not because you're wrong, but because you remind them of what they lack. So, rise, buildings speak, but never forget, in the presence of power, excellence must be cloaked in humility until the moment it's too late to stop you. Mistakes beginners make. Power is magnetic. The moment people sense a chance to gain influence or respect, they rush toward it. But in that rush, beginners often step into traps that destroy their potential before they even get started. They don't fail because they're weak. They fail because they ignore the hidden rules of power. Here's how. 1. Trying to prove themselves too soon. Beginners often think that the fastest way to success is to show everyone how smart they are. They interrupt. They correct. They insert their ideas too forcefully. They think visibility equals value. But in power dynamics, early exposure can be deadly. When you show your full strength too soon, you trigger resistance from people above you. They don't see your talent. They see a threat. Lesson. Learn to observe first. Earn trust quietly. Let others underestimate you. Real power grows in silence, not in noise. Second, shining brighter than the boss. One of the most common and most dangerous mistakes. Outshining the person in charge. It can happen unintentionally. A beginner lands a great deal, gives a brilliant presentation, or simply gets too much attention. They think it's a win. But the person above them starts to feel insecure, and insecurity turns into sabotage. They'll freeze your projects, block your ideas, push you out slowly. You won't even see it coming. Lesson: never take credit directly. Redirect praise to your superiors. Make them look good. Their approval is more valuable than any spotlight. Shinchi. 3. Overestimating meritocracy. Newcomers often believe the best ideas win, that if they just do great work, they'll rise. But power isn't fair. People don't always reward competence. They reward familiarity, loyalty, alignment. When you ignore politics, you become a political liability. Lesson: learn the game you're in. Understand alliances. Notice who has power, who they trust, and how influence flows. Talent matters, but it's only part of the equation. Mush Anshi is 4. Forgetting the room. Has a memory. You might think a casual joke, a bold comment, or a clever remark is forgotten. It's not. Rooms have memory. People remember how you made them feel, especially if it bruised their ego. A single, harmless moment can block you from opportunities years later. Lesson: every room is a stage. Be strategic with your words. Never show all your cards. Never punch up unless you're ready for the consequences. 5. Demanding instead of positioning. Beginners often want immediate recognition, a title, a raise, a role. They ask directly. They expect fairness. But power doesn't respond to demands. It responds to leverage. And leverage is built, not begged for. Lesson: make yourself valuable first. Position yourself as irreplaceable. When people need you, they'll give you what you want without asking. 6th, mistaking popularity for power. Some think if they're liked by everyone, they'll naturally rise. They focus on being friendly, funny, approachable. But power isn't about being liked. It's about being respected. And those two things often conflict. Popularity is soft. Power is sharp. Lesson: don't chase approval. Chase results. Be kind, but firm. Approachable, but not weak. Your identity must signal competence, not just charm. 7th, not knowing when to stay silent. A well-timed silence can do more than 10 smart sentences. Beginners often feel the need to talk, to explain, justify, impress. But every word you say reveals something: your desires, your fears, your level. Masters speak less and listen more. Lesson: let others talk. Observe what they reveal, then act with precision. Silence is strategy. 8. Focusing only on hard skills. They master Excel, design perfect decks, build incredible systems, but they ignore body language, tone, timing, storytelling, the soft skills that drive perception. And perception is what shapes power. Lesson: study presence, practice tone, refine the way you carry yourself. The world listens differently to someone who knows how to be. 9. Assuming loyalty will be returned. They help the team. Cover mistakes. Stay late. Expect that others will protect them back. But when pressure rises, beginners are often the first ones thrown under the bus. Loyalty is not always mutual, and power often rewards what's useful, not what's fair. Lesson: give loyalty carefully. Build alliances, not blind trust. And always protect your own position first. That's 10th, believing power is a title. They think becoming a manager, director, or founder means they now hold power. But power isn't given, it's taken, and it's fragile. It depends on perception, leverage, and influence, not business cards. Lesson: don't confuse rank with power. The real power is in your ability to affect decisions, shift minds, and move resources. That can happen from any position. Tristesse, Humpty. Final thought. Beginners fail not because they're weak, but because they're blind. They walk into the game thinking it's about logic, fairness, or skill. But power is about perception, timing, restraint, and positioning. The smartest move you can make at the start? Watch, learn, stay underestimated, and never forget, the most dangerous enemy is the one who doesn't know they've made one. How to act. The strategic path under law number 1. Knowing that power resents brightness is not enough. You must learn to navigate it, not fight it. This isn't a lesson in fear, it's a lesson in strategy. Here are the principles, tactics, and mindset shifts that will protect your potential and help it grow in the shadows until it's strong enough to stand in full light. 1. Master the art of strategic invisibility. In the beginning, don't be the loudest, be the most observant. Power is not gained by announcing your brilliance. It's gained by building quiet leverage. Study the room, map the players, learn the unspoken rules. The goal is not to disappear, but to blend in just enough. Become known as competent, loyal, and useful, but never as a rising star. That title draws arrows. Tactic: keep your wins quiet. Share credit. Let others feel like they led, even if you built it. 2. Make others dependent on you. Power flows to those who are needed, not just talented. Don't aim to be the best. Aim to be essential. Find the invisible problems others ignore. Solve them. Build relationships where people rely on you to succeed. Once people need you to function, they will protect you, because protecting you becomes self-protection. Tactic: look for unglamorous but high-impact areas. Own the boring but vital. Quietly become the keystone. ESG. Third position. Yourself as an ally, not a competitor. If you trigger insecurity, you lose, even if you're right. Power players don't want to feel challenged. They want to feel reinforced. Your job is to support their image, not compete with it. Praise them publicly. Make them look good. Deliver results they can take credit for. And they'll want you close. Tactic: when you speak, say we more than I. Align with their vision. Make them feel seen and safe. Fourth, use the power of delayed brilliance. Don't show all your cards at once. The early game is survival. The mid-game is leverage. The late game is legacy. Expose your talent slowly, in layers. Let your work speak, but let your full potential remain slightly hidden. When the time is right, and your foundation is unshakable, then, and only then, go big. Tactic: ask yourself, does showing this now gain me allies or enemies? If the answer is enemies, wait. 5. Control the narrative around you. Perception is reality, and if you don't shape your image, someone else will. Be intentional with how others see you. You don't need to lie, but you do need to frame. Be known as calm, capable, reliable, and modest, even if beneath that, you're a beast building an empire. Tactic: never self-promote directly. Let others spread your story. Create small legends others can repeat. 6. Detach from the need for credit. If you need recognition, you'll sabotage your rise. Let others take the glory, especially those above you. Your goal is power, not applause. And power belongs to those who can give results without needing acknowledgement. Tactic: say things like, just doing my part, or it was a team effort. Let your consistency build the real legacy. 7th, build a shield of loyal allies. No one rises alone. You need protection, whispers in rooms you're not in, and eyes in the dark. Identify people who are underestimated but influential. Build trust with them. Help them win. Over time, form a circle that protects each other's rise. Tactic: your true allies are rarely the loudest. They're the ones quietly moving influence behind the scenes. Hashem. 8. Spot the fragile ego and avoid it. Some people cannot tolerate talent near them. You must learn to recognize them fast. They talk too much about their past. They name drop. They punish disagreement. They only reward obedience. These people will sabotage you if they feel insecure. Tactic: never shine in front of fragile egos. Stay small in their presence until you're strong enough to replace them. Sheskansa contortas. So, ninth turn, praise into deflection. Compliments are landmines in power dynamics. If you accept them too directly, they can breed resentment. Instead, redirect, deflect. Turn attention away from yourself and toward the team, the boss, the vision. Tactic: thanks, but I couldn't have done it without their support, is more powerful than I worked hard for this. 10. Track your real progress, not just titles. Titles lie, recognition lies. The real measure of power is who listens when you speak, who asks for your input behind closed doors, who protects your name in your absence. Track those signs. That's how you know you're rising, even if your position stays the same. Tactic: keep a private log of moments where your influence showed up subtly. It'll keep you focused. 11th. Play the long game without getting bitter. There will be moments when others are promoted faster, when your idea is stolen, when someone with less talent is celebrated. That's not failure. That's the game. The moment you get bitter, you lose. Resentment breaks your mask. It leaks in your tone, your eyes, your presence. And once they sense it, you become a threat again. Tactic: smile in defeat. Stay kind in setbacks. Let them think you've accepted the rules, while you're rewriting them in silence. 12th. Know when to switch modes. There comes a time when silence no longer protects. It limits. At some point, you've built enough goodwill, enough allies, enough leverage. That's when you step forward. That's when you stop hiding. But even then, do it with grace, not ego. Let your rise feel inevitable, not explosive. Tactic: transition slowly. Take one bold move at a time. Let people adjust to your growth, or they'll resist it. Anti-fancy, anti. Final note. Law number 1 is not about fear. It's about power in its purest form. The kind that grows quietly, strategically, and without triggering enemies too soon. You don't need to be invisible forever. You just need to become unremovable before you are undeniable. Only then should you shine. Conclusion: the price of brilliance. There's a reason the first law is the most feared. Never outshine the master is not just advice for survival. It's a lens through which to understand power itself. Because power doesn't operate on logic. It operates on emotion, ego, and perception. And the closer you get to it, the more dangerous those forces become. You may believe that talent speaks for itself, that merit will win, that if you work hard, deliver results, and act with integrity, you'll rise. But reality isn't built on fairness. It's built on human nature, and human nature punishes anything that threatens status. Talent isn't enough. History is filled with brilliant people who fell, not because they failed, but because they succeeded too visibly. Nicolas Fouquet built a legacy of art, beauty, and finance, and died in a prison cell. Lee Iacocca saved Chrysler and was fired. Steve Jobs revolutionized Apple and got pushed out. It's not a question of talent. It's a question of how you let that talent be seen. So what you're really navigating. Behind every position of power is a human being. Fragile, proud, fearful. They may wear suits, crowns, or titles, but underneath, they are driven by the same insecurity as anyone else. And the closer you get to them, the more your brilliance becomes a mirror, reflecting not just your light, but their shadows. You're not just managing a job, you're managing their identity, their fears, their need to feel superior. Understanding this doesn't make you weak. It makes you dangerously effective. Just ersentined. Real power is silent. True power is not loud. It doesn't beg for recognition. It doesn't need applause. It moves like smoke, wraps around influence, and embeds itself where it can't be removed. This law teaches you to play the long game, to build foundations that last, to win without triggering the alarms. Because once you're undeniable, once you've built something so strong that even your silence speaks, no one can erase you. That's the goal, not just to shine, but to shine at the right time, in the right way, with the right protection around you. Your choice. At every stage in life, you will face the same decision. Do I show everything I have and risk the blade, or do I hold it back and become the kind of person who wins the war, not just the battle? If you're building something bigger than applause, a legacy, a movement, an empire, this law is not optional. It's foundational. Saitu. Final thought. You don't owe anyone your full light until you're ready. In a world that punishes visibility and rewards obedience, brilliance must learn to hide. Not out of fear, but out of strategy. Because the brightest stars don't burn out by accident. They burn out because they shined too early, too loud, too close to a sun that needed to feel like the only light in the sky. Now you know, act accordingly. If this shook something in you, don't stop here. This is just law number 1. There are 47 more, each deadlier than the last. If you want to master the hidden rules of power, the ones that no one dares to speak but everyone plays by, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. The next law will make you rethink trust itself. Law number 2. Don't miss it.